This is happening.
Let me just do what I love to.
No 9 to 5.
Eat that frog. You gotta work hard.
Risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. This is Lifestyle Architecture Lab, and I'm your host Himanshu Sachdeva. Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Lifestyle Architecture Lab. In this show, I talk about lifestyle design, financial freedom, and also dissect the process, behavior, and routines of the personalities who have designed a lifestyle of freedom for themselves. These guests range from artists, musicians, entrepreneurs, lifestyle coaches, investors, professional athletes, etc. These conversations dig deep into their stories to find out their thought process, tools, strategies, and tricks that makes them tick. This podcast is brought to you by Audible. I love audiobooks and I've been using Audible for years. Whenever I'm commuting to work and back, almost always I'm listening to a book. Because I don't get time to read as much as I would like to, so audiobooks help me read books in a whole new way. If you want to try it out, you can get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Himanshu Sachdeva. You'll get thousands and thousands of books to choose from, which you can listen on your phone, laptop, or even on your Kindle device, anytime, anywhere. In this episode, I'm talking to Rajat Ubhaykar, who is a journalist and an author. His first book, Truck Day India, launched in late 2019, and since then it's trending in top travel books in India. In this book, he shares his 10,000 kilometers hitchhiking adventure throughout India with truckers. He documented the lives of truckers, the highway economy, and busted a lot of myths about truckers. In this conversation, we talked about his book, his writing process, a lot of stories he actually lived through while on his crazy journey, including an insurgent attack in northeast India. It was a great experience talking to Rajat about his own story and his documented journey called Truck Day India. So without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Rajat Ubhaykar. Hey Rajat, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Himanshu, for having me.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure to have you here. Our interaction initially started, I think, from Twitter.
Yes.
And subsequently your book, Truck Day India, launched. You were always sharing tidbits on Twitter about your journeys, and it really fascinated me how you might have mustered the courage to go on a completely unknown journey as a hitchhiker with truckers. So that was a really interesting journey which I found out in recent times, whom anybody might have taken, like in my knowing. But then as I got to know more about you and found out that it has been your interest since very early days, like your childhood. So can you start off by telling about how your curiosity about the lives of truckers in India started?
So the first memory I have of seeing truckers is when we went on a family road trip. This was in the late 90s to my village in coastal Karnataka.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time I encountered trucks and truckers, and the kind of colorful truck bodies there are, the kind of slogans that were written. I remember they struck me as quite intriguing and fascinating even as a child, and that desire was there. And then finally during my college days was when this desire crystallized into a desire to actually go out and travel with them.
Yeah.
This was also derived from we went on this one very unplanned, spontaneous trip in my first year of college.
Like in usual college days we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. And we went from Kanpur to Shimla in general train compartments and through various kinds of trials and tribulations. Finally, we reached Shimla, but we were stranded around 20 kilometers outside Shimla. How we got there is another story. And it was January, so the cold was at its peak, and we were wondering how to get to our hotel. And that's when we were trying to hitchhike, and many vehicles did not even stop. But finally, one trucker stopped for us. He took us in, he dropped us, and he did not even accept the meager 50 rupees that I was compensating him for his trouble. So that was very unusual for me, because in my entire life nobody had ever refused
Money.
Yeah. And I began to wonder what their lives on the road must be like. I went back to, when I reached Kanpur again, I searched on the internet to see if anything had been written, but
So it was since when, in which
this
year?
was in 2009.
2009. Okay.
So there was nothing, absolutely nothing written about them.
Yeah.
And at the same time, parallelly, my interest in journalism was rising.
Yeah.
So second, third year of college, I had decided that I'm most probably going to go into journalism. So these two desires got together in a good way, and finally in 2015 I was able to set off on this journey.
Wow, that's amazing. So you have done your engineering from IIT Kanpur, right? And you started out your career with a management consulting job, right? But later on you dropped out from there and did your journalism diploma, like as you wanted to do always. And eventually you started out this journalism career. Why that switch happened, like from that regular job, and how was that transition like?
So the switch happened, it was a premeditated switch actually. I joined a corporate job just to see what I would be missing out on.
Okay.
And I did not want any regrets on that front. So I thought I might as well experience this life for a year, see what it's all about, whether it suits me or not. And at the end of the 1 year, I decided, it makes a lot of sense to switch to journalism.
Drop this and go to journalism.
I'm basically in my early 20s. I did not want to be chained to a desk, so to speak. I wanted to, because I was very curious about India, about so many people in India, the kind of stories that have still not been told. So that made journalism an attractive option. And I was interested in reading, writing, traveling, and all these things journalism gave me the opportunity to do. So that was good. The switch was also, my experience was very pleasant. Like the Asian College of Journalism where I studied was a world of difference from IIT Kanpur. I mean,
what was the
the humanities, the kind of people that come there from a humanities background. So you get to meet a lot of new people with varied interests. And that was a very good learning experience for me.
Did you find few more people like you who were doing some job and then switched and then got into journalism? You find those people in the college?
Yes, definitely. My roommate, in fact, who was a very good friend, he had done engineering, then he had done an MBA, then he had worked for some time,
then he
switched to journalism. So a lot of engineers were there. I mean, majority were humanities students, but a significant chunk were engineers.
Humanities students?
Yeah, humanities, English literature.
Right.
Something like that.
Okay.
So most of them were from DU or Kolkata or Kerala.
Okay, but what fascinates me in this story of yours is how you were able to jump the ship from the 9 to 5 job, because usually when people get into it, they don't even know and then get into a deep rabbit hole of being chained to the desk, and they're always there even though they want to get out, but they can't find the door to get out. So how that happened with you?
So I think the only thing you really need to get out of that sort of routine is real desire to get out of it. I mean, where there is a will, there is a way. That much I am 100% sure of. Of course, there are varied compulsions why people continue to stick to this sort of setting in terms of work. For example, people do an MBA, they take a huge loan for it,
Yeah.
then they have to pay back that loan.
Yeah,
So all these compulsions make people often stick to that conventional path. But there are so many people I know who have switched, and of course there are its own set of challenges even in when you switch from such a stable corporate job
Yeah.
to relatively unstable journalism career.
Right.
So, but that sort of unpredictability is what also makes it exciting. Because otherwise, for example, I knew that if I was going to stick to my job, I'll probably go do an MBA in 2-3 years. And then after that, I'll rise up the corporate ranks. Like I could see my future planned out right in front of me. And that was kind of very boring. Like I did not want my life to go down a path which,
Yeah.
somebody else has set for me.
This
in a way.
reminds me of something I read in the book of Tim Ferriss, The 4-Hour Work Week. So he has mentioned every year from the starting of my college days, I do this review of my life. And whenever he's off course and he's not able to get out of his mind, so he's doing this journaling, and he always imagines belly uncle of himself, like he has become that uncle and he's into that kind of job. He has a Mercedes, he has a beautiful wife and all those things, but he is that uncle. So he always fears that. He has did that as a fear setting exercise, which puts him away from that kind of setting and brings him back to the writing, which he really likes. So like it sort of dimly reminds me of that.
Yeah, actually, this uncertainty can be frightening for some people.
Yeah.
But for me, that is what is exciting and that is what makes me want to live life in a way, because I don't know where my future is going to lead me in a way, and that is exciting.
Wow.
So
That's a brave thing to say.
yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So, coming back to your book, this might have been asked to you a lot of times in your book campaigns and interviews as well, like how the idea of the book started. But let me try to take a stance on this from a different angle. So, do you believe in the muse? Like, usually writers talk about the muse and how the idea didn't come by themselves but from a muse, and how the muse helped them write that story. So did that happen with you, or like it was entirely your own curiosity which started from the early days and it led to the story which you wrote?
I mean, muse, I think I could say that there were other travel writers who inspired me to actually jump the ship and try to do something like this. So I drew inspiration from some of them, but I think this idea was kind of came from within only. I mean, and from it, I wanted to travel India. I wanted to see it in a way which is not usually seen. I mean, from the cabin of a truck, how does India look, and what is life for the trucker? So I think that idea came from within only. But there were various travel writers who had done
inspired you.
Yeah, who had done similar courageous things and lived to tell the tale.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, might be worth taking a shot.
So there was no muse, but inspirations were a lot.
There were inspirations.
Any specific writer you were inspired from?
Yeah, so there is this Polish journalist called Rajat Kapuczynski. He is a excellent travel writer, journalist. He is reported from across various conflict regions, like in Africa, over 40 years or so. And he's had some amazing experiences. His writing is also wonderful. So reading some of his books on Africa, The Shadow of the Sun, I mean, I thought maybe I should also try to see India in that way.
Wow. And, even though India is not like that conflict driven, but
India has similar levels of diversity like Africa. India is a subcontinent.
Of course. Yeah.
And it has its own sets of challenges, of course, and conflict is also there. Be it Central India or Northeast India, Kashmir.
Yeah. So, as in your book and in your interviews, you have mentioned that there was a lot of logistical problems while doing this trip, right? So, like the morning routine, the planning of the route, the sleep, being conscious and alert all the time. So, can you describe all those challenges like which you faced while doing this trip? And if you had to choose, what was the most difficult thing, single most difficult thing out of these challenges? What was that?
So, right before setting out, I knew that this is not going to be a pleasure vacation where I'm just going to be chilling. I knew that it's going to come with its own set of challenges.
Yeah.
But mentally, I was prepared. And what my firm belief is that all kinds of physical endurance has to be derived from mental endurance. So all this came from my experience in a military school. I studied in Sainik School, Satara. And the kind of strenuous lifestyle we had over there. You had to run cross-country races. I mean, from morning till evening, you were doing something.
Yeah.
Running around or being punished. So after that experience, I was like, yeah, I can take pretty much anything after this. It's not going to be that difficult. So I was mentally prepared. And the challenges that I faced on the way, firstly, of course, included no sense of any routine. Just like the truckers themselves, they don't have
any fixed routine.
Any fixed routine. They will eat wherever their particular dhaba stop comes.
Yeah.
They have a fixed dhaba usually where they go to.
Right.
So they go only there. Whether that dhaba comes at 3 or 4 in the afternoon or like 10 a.m. in the morning. So usually we used to have only 2 meals in the day.
Wow.
Trucking, like, breakfast is never breakfast, it's usually brunch. So like after that we would directly stop for dinner and in between for tea. So the irregular food habits was one thing. The brutal heat was another huge problem because I traveled in the summer to North India and there were heat waves going on at that time. So that was a constant
pain.
Yeah, constant pain because even in the truck cabin is also kind of
heat chamber.
Yeah, it's slightly claustrophobic and it tends to trap the heat. So that was also a pretty big issue. Sleeping routine was also, I did not sleep. I hardly used to sleep because I wanted to stay up. I wanted to see everything. I mean, I had not gone on this trip to sleep. On the way. So I hardly used to sleep. Throughout the day I used to be up, either looking at the countryside, taking down notes or talking to the truckers.
But in the night usually they will be driving and then you might be catching some
in the
sleep.
night sometimes, but even then I used to avoid as much as possible. Because while on the trip I wanted to
be conscious and alert.
Savor every moment of
Savor
it.
moments.
Yeah, and observe the country because otherwise you don't get this opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So I avoided sleeping as much as possible. Of course, sometimes in the night the truckers would also sleep. So then I had no choice. I mean, I would also.
But how would you survive without sleep?
I mean, one or 2 days with a little sleep you can manage. When I used to finally go to a hotel after being dropped, I used to go to some lodge. There I would like sleep properly. So I mean, it's all mental really. I mean, if you decide to not do it, you can get away with it to some extent.
So what was the most difficult challenge? How did you go to like pee or poop?
Yeah, that was also an issue. I mean, in dhabas there was there were some facilities,
public toilets and everything.
Yeah, and sometimes open defecation, sadly, where because there was nothing else.
No shauchalaya.
Yeah, nothing, because the facilities are very, very terrible on highways,
on the road,
as we all know. Because truckers are not seen as a significant community for whom we should build such infrastructure.
That's sad.
Yeah, so there was no infrastructure. So all that was also a challenge. I took all that in my stride. I said, okay, whatever it is, because my aim was to live like them. So the kind of challenges they face,
you had to face those challenges.
I thought I should take them on too.
Wow, that's awesome. So there is a lot of skepticism, like as you mentioned, they are not a usual tribe, the truckers in India, right? So they're also sometimes linked to drugs and alcohol and rape sometimes. But did you really find any relevance on these rumors about the truckers, or are they just rumors? Was there any common thread in any specific not so good habits in them?
So I think these are stereotypes which are not valid at all. From my experience, the vast majority of truckers are normal individuals who want to earn an honest living, who have wives and children at home, who want to provide for them, and they are just normal people. Like majority of the people in India are decent.
Yeah.
That said, there is a link between trucking and some form of addiction,
Correct.
because the job can be very
Stagnating.
monotonous,
Yeah.
and you need something to break the journey.
Yeah.
So they will like stop, have a tea, or chewing tobacco is the most common addiction.
Okay, tobacco.
Yeah, chewing tobacco. And so that was majority of the
Did you
truckers-
try that?
I did, but I did not like it. So yeah, I did not stick to it. I thought I should try it once, but I did not find. I mean, it's a acquired taste to put it
Yeah.
that way. So yeah, so chewing tobacco, sometimes cigarettes in some cases, or in Punjab and Rajasthan, opium.
Yeah,
Which is
opium.
bhukki, which is poppy husk.
Afeem, yeah.
So that is quite common in Punjab and some parts of Rajasthan.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, some of them, like this whole idea of them being alcoholics
Yeah.
is like absolutely untrue, because when I asked them about this, they used to say, "हमें भी अपने जान की परवाह है. While on the job, if we keep drinking, we are going to die
Of course.
sometime or the other."
Yeah.
So they were quite conscious of that, the risk that drunk driving poses, and they indulged in it after a long trip when they had delivered their mal. They would sit back, have a drink, or to go to sleep, like just like any working professional.
Any working professional.
At the end of a weekday.
Weekends, Friday nights are
Yeah.
usually that.
So just like them, that is the thing. So this whole stereotype, I would like to make it clear, is
It's untrue.
Yeah, it's quite untrue.
Okay. So while researching for this episode, I found out about your journey in Northeast. On the day you were traveling to Imphal, there was an insurgent attack. Few trucks were burned and there was shots fired. Can you describe those moments, the face-off? Was it the first time you were facing like this kind of lethal situation? How did you tackle your fear in those times?
So there was, when I was planning to go from Dimapur to Imphal, at that time I was trying to hitchhike with trucks. I found out that majority of the trucks firstly travel only in convoys of around 200 strong. So 200 trucks in convoys will
Wow.
travel together, escorted by paramilitary forces.
Wow.
Because then the risk of insurgents is
In Northeast, right?
So because of that, I found out that okay, so it was not possible for me to travel in that convoy
Karma.
because it's like a military
Right.
administered convoy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was out of the question. So I tried to find out some stray truckers who were traveling alone. I found them, and then they told me that okay, today we are not traveling because there is a bandh which is being announced by some insurgent group. There has been like burning of some trucks on the road ahead, and so the going on the trip today is out of the question. So I was stranded in Dimapur for 1 or 2 days. So this is a very common thing on this particular highway, NH39.
NH39.
Yeah, so 1 out of 6 days there is some or the other bandh announced
Okay.
by some insurgent group, which
Wow.
means the highway is usually like not
Closed.
functioning.
Yeah.
And because of this, there are own sets of challenges. Food and fuel are often in shortage because the road is blocked by insurgents. So in Imphal, it's quite common to have food and fuel shortages. In fact, the petrol pumps don't work in Imphal. I found out that when I went to the petrol pump just like that, I found that the petrol pump is not working. There are a couple of old women sitting on the roadside selling petrol and diesel in these plastic bottles. So this black economy works.
There.
Yeah, a lot.
Wow. There was a mention of one hotel room night. I mean, right? Can you describe about that?
Yeah, that was quite scary actually in Imphal. Yeah, in the night I was all alone firstly. I did not know anyone in that
So it
region.
was the time when truckers said we are not going. So you were staying in some hotel.
No, I had reached Imphal. My journey
Acha, you
was
were-
done.
Okay.
I was like resting in my hotel for a couple of days. I thought I'll just roam around Imphal and try to see the city.
Mm-hmm.
That was when it happened. It was late in the night. The risk was if you know someone and stuff, then you are sort of pacified ki theek hai. There is even if there is risk, someone who speaks the language,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
knows people. But when you're all alone, you don't know, because it's quite culturally also it's very
different, right?
from the rest of India. So you feel like a
Alien there.
in a way, in some ways. Of course, there are a lot of familiar things also,
Mhm.
like the terrible state of the roads and the
Irony.
and of course the Bihari laborers. They are everywhere.
They are
in the
everywhere.
Northeast. So there are a few familiar things also, but it's culturally quite different. So it happened in the night when there were some bullets fired in front of my hotel.
Oh
Some
my
people
God.
were fighting. I had no clue what was happening. So it's all very unclear when you go there. Who are these people? What insurgent group they might belong to? Why are they fighting? So I got quite paranoid after all
course.
that, and I decided I should probably head back. Anyway, it has been 4 months since I had set out, and I was quite homesick also by that time. I was like, I want my neer dosa, and
You are
so,
quite fond of neer dosa.
yeah. I mean, breakfast at home.
Yeah.
You miss a lot when you travel outside.
So it was still how many days or months like since you reached Imphal at that time?
Or it had been 4 months since
4 months?
since I had set out from Mumbai.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it had been quite some time, and I thought it would be wise to call off my journey and head back.
So that was like one leg in your journey was over, right?
Yeah, the
And
first leg was over.
Yeah, and the second one happened in South India, if
Yeah.
I'm not wrong.
Yeah, the second one happened in 2018 in South India.
Okay. So in 2015 you took this
Yeah.
trip, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and in between you put 2 years almost.
Yeah, in between I had published some articles in Outlook Business
Yeah.
based on this trip. I was working, and then I got the book deal. And then I thought I should not leave out South India. That would be an incomplete book
Yeah.
if I did not write anything about
So
South.
in those 4 months you had traveled north, west and east,
Yeah.
but only the south,
South
was
was
remaining.
left, yeah.
So
So I thought I should complete the circle, and
right. Okay, so as you mentioned about your book deal, so how did that happen in between? Like while you were writing your experience, so you found out some publisher in between?
actually I was very fortunate, because usually when you want to get a book deal, you have to hire an agent
Yeah.
who will submit your manuscript to various people who will
Yes.
finally get back to you. It's quite a torturous process, and many people are discouraged because of, for debut authors it's usually very,
Very
difficult
difficult.
to break through. But for me, I was very fortunate, because the editorial director of Simon & Schuster India,
Mm-hmm.
Dharini Bhaskar,
Mm-hmm.
she noticed some of my articles online
Wow.
in Outlook as well as in Roads and Kingdoms, an American magazine. So she saw the potential for a full-length book, because she found out I had been for like 4-month journey with truck drivers. So she felt there was a lot of potential for a book-length travelogue. So she approached me. She said, "Okay, have you
Up for
considered
this?"
converting this into a book?" I said, "Yeah, that was my original plan." And then the contract was signed.
Wow.
So I was very fortunate to get this break.
I mean, it's not just fortune, I think, because your work was there and you did this very different kind of experience. So that was really, I mean, it might have been fascinating for that publisher as well, right?
Yeah, fortune favors the brave.
Yeah, that's true, of course. So as we were talking in one of our previous conversation while pre-recording about GST and the highway economy, I think in 2018 when your second leg started. So how did your experience of traveling with truckers and the lives of truckers changed because of this goods and service tax which was passed in Parliament? Can you describe that impact?
Yeah. So my travels in South India was very different from my travels in North and East, because earlier we used to wait for a long time on state borders, just waiting for the papers to be processed and for us to be let through. It used to be hours, and we used to be very frustrated all the like they, not them, but me, because
Yeah.
I had no clue what was happening. For hours we were sitting there in the cabin, just
Hours and
chilling.
hours.
Yeah. So that was quite a bad experience, just sitting and waiting for, and this is what truckers had gone through all their lives. because of the fragmented tax administration system of India. But in my South India trip, it was extremely smooth. We just passed without any hiccup. I mean, not even the entire border was empty. So that was the kind of drastic change that GST had brought when I traveled. So there was no bribes being taken. So there was a lot of bribery and stuff also happening in the earlier regime at state borders.
Of course.
But this had changed quite a bit. But of course, now I am not sure because I traveled in 2018. Things tend to change.
Yeah, because people find loopholes and then the
people
corruption
find
starts
ways.
again.
Yeah, people find ways to get back the income they were losing out on.
Yeah, so truckers, of course, benefited a lot at that time, and they did not have to wait and also not give bribe monies also at times, right? So it was a good thing for them. Any other thing you would like to mention which might have did
but
good?
what I discovered was the tax evasion that was happening earlier continued to happen in GST also, because the truckers used to have two sets of papers. One to show the people, and then
One was the original.
another set which is like underground, or they used to call it. They did not. They were instructed not to
Show it.
Yeah, so I discovered that people do find ways to, irrespective of the tax regime, they find ways to evade tax, and so that keeps happening.
So it happens on both the ends. From the
absolutely.
government side also and from the
It's a cat and mouse
consumer
game.
side also.
It's both the government is trying to get as much as it can. These guys don't want to give. So yeah, there's problems on both sides, I would say.
Yeah. All right.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. Here is a quick word from the sponsors of this episode. For you, the listeners of Lifestyle Architecture Lab podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30 days trial. The free audiobook is yours to keep even after the trial ends. I have a few audiobooks to recommend. Number one is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. This is one of those books which will take you back to the ancient times and teach you so much. I recently read it and it just blew my mind. Number two is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. This is one of the greatest bedtime books which I discovered. Neil Gaiman's voice just makes this book much more wonderful. This story and the narration is just amazing. You can download any of these two books or thousands more for free right now. Just go to audibletrial.com/Himanshu Sachdeva. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Himanshu Sachdeva for your free audiobook. Please enjoy.
So, coming back to the book again, can you take me through your writing process when you wrote this book? Was it like a long, lengthy process of writing, or was it a concentrated effort which happened in small trench?
So, writing is torture in general. Writing anything, like trying to get stuff out of your head in a coherent manner and then editing it. It is all very unnatural in a way. So, yeah, it requires a lot of discipline and just willpower, to just keep going. Because when you start off on a book length project, you don't see the end. It is very easy to be overwhelmed by the entire task that is in front of you. So it took me around a year and 2 months or so to write this entire thing. And I broke down that task firstly into small segments just to make it
doable.
Make it seem doable.
Doable.
So I broke down into chapters first. But as I wrote, the chapters also kept evolving in a way. Because when you make the chapter outline, that is one thing. You decide, okay, this is the. But when you start writing, you see the challenges in terms of how to make it work,
how to link them together, and how to move forward. So organically, sometimes it evolves.
Yeah, so it keeps evolving. After a point, of course, I had a good sense of what I'm going to put in, what I'm not going to put in. But I found that it's quite it's not a static thing. So in general, it's best to keep your mind open. Even after you made a chapter outline, it's best to
So
You know.
but do you feel making a framework beforehand, like a wireframe of your story, is important, or
It
like,
is. I mean, it depends on the individual writers. I think some of them are like to plan everything to the T. They
Yeah.
have everything in mind. Others like go with the flow and let it
Yeah.
evolve. So it depends on the individual writers. For me, it's a mix of both. I did have a skeletal framework at the beginning, but I kept myself open to some sort
New
of
ideas.
new ideas, and even in terms of the narrative, how to push it forward. And as far as my routine etc. is concerned, I used to write typically in the afternoon from around 3 to 6:30 p.m. So 3 hours I used to devote to writing.
So you were staying home at those times?
Yeah, I was working from home then. So these 3 hours I used to put from for writing. Yeah, that was my typical thing. Otherwise, some people usually have in the morning or in the night. My thing was in the afternoon, so that's slightly unusual, I would say, but
Yeah.
it worked for me.
Yeah, but what time would you wake up
I
in
would
those days?
I wake up usually at like 7:38.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then after an hour or so after lunch, I would start my writing.
Writing process.
So the most important thing is to show up. Like Woody Allen says, like 80% of success is showing up.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is that you sit there, even if you're just staring at that blank page, that's fine. But the most important thing is to sit there and stare at it, not do something else and
Yeah.
let your mind wander.
Yeah, I mean, in these days, like notifications and all those
Yeah.
internet distractions, it's very easy to get lost in
Yes.
those. But did you like put yourself in do not disturb mode at those times?
Yeah, I mean, social media I try to avoid during those hours, and rather I would read something. If I'm not able to write anything,
Then read.
then I would like try to research more, just try to get more deep into the subject. So that way I used to get some ideas and I used to take down notes. But yeah, when I was facing a writing block, my main thing was to go and read more, and specifically about these subjects. So,
Travel subjects.
yeah, and that is how, or I would read some other travel writers just to see how they wrote it and get some ideas in the process.
All right. And as you mentioned, like you were eating the way truckers were eating in those times. So while you were traveling, did you find any specific dish or something in those dhabas which you really loved?
A dish I found in Assam and Nagaland, the food was quite amazing because I found out this amazing fish dish. I am not sure what it's called also today, but that was quite amazing because they have this thali system in the northeast, like chicken, fish, all kinds of meat. So that was very unusual because in the rest of India it's quite vegetarian usually, mostly vegetarian.
Right. But there it was all non-vegetarian.
Yeah. So that was good, and I am a lover of seafood, so fish and I'm
Konkani.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
of course.
wherever you give me, if you give me fish, I'll be happy.
The fish guy.
Yeah.
And did you have any mindfulness or meditation? Like, do you have rather a mindfulness or meditation practice which you follow regularly?
I wouldn't say I follow it consciously, but I try to live life mindfully. I try to do that. I have always tried to do that. Just to be in the moment and not think about the past or the future. And even during my travels, like I said, I like to be very aware of my surroundings and not lose out on any experience. So I think I have internalized that to some extent, though consciously I have not done any such thing.
All right. And are there any apps, gadgets, or product or services which you are using on regular basis which make your life a little better as a writer or maybe as an individual?
Not really, I would say. I
don't depend on
no.
apps.
I don't use my phone for much except for like mails or
Mails and calls.
Yes, I am not an app person. not much of.
Any physical diary or notebook?
I used to be quite a diarist when I was in school, and even now, anytime any idea strikes me, I try to take it down. So, and I have a to-do list. The one app that I use is for to-do list.
Which is that app?
Splendo, I think. because I like to have a to-do list.
To-do list,
They
yeah.
help because there's so many things swirling around in your mind, right?
You need to prioritize.
Yeah, I need to prioritize and I forget about it later. That I
Yeah,
wanted to
that's
do that
important.
in the first place. And so I have a big to-do list.
Yeah.
Like if I want to go to Delhi, then I want to do this.
Yeah.
In Bombay, I used to want to do this. In Bangalore, I want to do this. Or in life in general, this is what I want to do. So I like that.
Mm-hmm. So as you mentioned about diary, do you do journaling of any sort usually?
I've stopped now. I don't have. I mean, somehow it slipped off the priority
List.
And but I have I still have my diary from my school days that I used to maintain in military school, and I find it a wonderful habit. I mean, maybe after this podcast, I'll probably try to start again because you get to relive the person you were when you read it later. And now when I read my diary when I was a 14-15-year-old, it feels wonderful to have that.
Yeah, documentation.
Yes, I can. Maybe I can show that to my kids someday. This is how you.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good to have that.
Back to the past kind of things.
Otherwise, you keep changing as a person so much, right? Across time, you don't realize how much you have changed. So one thing I like to do is going through these diaries now and then. And second thing I like to do is go through my Gmail chats with people. And that is also a wonderful thing. When I go back, I see the kind of person I had, what kind of priorities I had. Yeah, what were my interests then? What was my routine like? Because you talk about so many things. I used to chat a lot on Gmail in college and even later. So I like revisiting those just to see how I have changed as a person.
Right. I also keep on doing journaling. I usually do it every day. But yeah, of course, sometimes it slips through. But what I do is I usually do it every day and then review it on the weekend or maybe in bi-weekly sort of thing. And then, of course, as you move further in your life and after a couple of years, you start to see those diaries again. Of course, it feels very good that, we have evolved that much as a person and as an individual. And sometimes it helps us recalibrate our priorities as well, right? Because in earlier years, you might have written that I want to become a writer, right? Yes. But sometimes it slips through.
Yes.
Then when you read those, you get back to those recalibrations and your life and the priorities change then.
Totally.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of journaling. So coming back, can you name a person who has had a big impact on your life? Maybe a mentor, and how did that person change your life or impact your life?
So mentor, I don't have a mentor as such. I mean, I wouldn't say, because I have the kind of path I have also followed. No,
it's very unusual.
Yeah, there was no one to
follow
any path whose life I could emulate in a way.
But there are inspirations like you mentioned about.
Inspiration definitely. But if there had to be a role model for me,
it was not there.
No, there was one. If there is a role model for me, there's one guy, Rahul Dravid. Yeah. So I have been a huge fan of his since I was a child. Everybody used to make fun of me because I was a fan of him at the time when he used to play very slowly. But I admired his temperament and his discipline and his a nice guy. That is the kind of person I wanted to become.
The wall.
Yes. I mean, you look at him, he's like a disciplined chap, dedicated to his work, to his craft. And at the same time, he is not an arrogant chap. So all these things, I mean, if there was a person I wanted to be as a child, and even now, I mean, his life and his work ethic, his attitude is something that I really admire.
Rahul Dravid.
Yes.
Wow. And what under 5,000 rupees purchase you have made recently which changed your life in a better way?
Yeah, I am actually very much against consumerism actually. As a principle, I am just speaking. I try to avoid buying things as much as possible. Even clothes and stuff, I usually try to recycle. I try to avoid all that. Only thing I buy are books. And in books, I think... I think Sapiens is a book that I really
admire.
Yeah, I mean, it gave me a wider perspective on humanity, how we have evolved.
Yeah, it's an amazing book.
Yeah, and in a coherent, rational fashion. He's written it very well. And reading that book, I I got the wider picture of our species
Yeah.
and how we have come to be the way we are.
I also read, I think, in last year, and yeah, it completely changed my mind towards humanity itself. And right now, I'm reading his second book in this series, which is Odious.
Yes.
But I did not like it as much as I liked Sapiens. But of course, it is also giving some more different perspective of humans. Sapiens was like the past of the humans. It is sort of future of the humans.
Yes.
But nobody knows the future, right? So it is also written basis on the past experiences and how it might be evolving in future. But yeah, his writing is amazing. Yuval Noah Harari's. I always am excited to read his articles and books always.
He's a great writer.
Yeah. So what was the weirdest horn okay type sign of any type which you saw in your journey of 10,000 kilometers throughout India?
Lot of funny ones, strange ones.
Uh-huh. Anyone
I
coming to
mean,
mind?
Yeah, I mean, there was one sign which I really liked, and it was I saw it on quite a few trucks. मालिक की गाड़ी ड्राइवर का पसीना चलती है सड़कों पर बनकर हसीना.
Oh my
Like
God.
that sort of encapsulated the whole trucking business.
Wow.
Because it was perfect. So I really liked that one.
Awesome. So as you yourself are also an avid reader, any book apart from Sapiens you would like to recommend, or any documentary or film, like any kind of media that you consume?
So in films, those who like road trips, and since my book is also a travel book, I would recommend this film called 303.
303.
Yeah, it's a German film about a road trip across Europe from Germany to Spain. So it has it is basically like before sunrise, before sunset. If
Yeah. That
like
series.
a conversational movie.
Yeah, I really loved that series
Yeah.
because it didn't have any huge like budget or like any plethora of scenes.
Yes.
But it was just human conversations which like took it to the next level.
Yes.
Okay.
So those who like this series should definitely check this out.
303.
Because it's a conversational movie with some stunning scenery, like European scenery along the way. So I really enjoyed that movie.
But it is a German movie, but so it's available in English subtitles as well, right?
English subtitles will be available. I'm not sure where you can find it now.
It's an old movie?
No, not a very old movie.
Probably
2-3 years.
Netflix or Amazon
Hopefully.
Prime.
Or on Mubi.
Mubi
also has some good.
Okay.
So they have a great collection.
I'll put some links. I'll try to find it out.
This movie is recommended. Apart from that, in books, I read this historical fiction recently called The Age of Frenzy.
The Age of Frenzy.
Yeah. So this book is about the Portuguese Inquisition, the Goan Inquisition, which happened in the 16th, 17th century. So in which the Portuguese committed a lot of atrocities on the Goan population. And my own history is also linked to that in a way. So when I read that book, I read that book when on a trip to Goa actually. I thought I should read something about the state and its history. So because my own community also, after the Portuguese Inquisition, we migrated from Goa to coastal Karnataka. Because of the kind of atrocities and oppression that was happening. So this book is highly recommended. It was originally a Konkani book and it was translated in English. So it covers Goan history, the experience of Goans under the Portuguese superbly. I mean, it's a wonderful book.
So as you mentioned, you have a linked history to this. So do you have any like your grandparents or somebody telling you about those kind of things?
Not really. It happened much earlier.
Much earlier, right?
Yeah, it's not in living memory now. But
okay.
it's there we know that is the reason why
the history is there.
We migrated. But yeah, it's not in living memory.
All right. So your book Truck Day India is doing very well now and is trending in the top 10 travel books in India, Amazon India. So what is the next book or next goal that you are looking forward to?
So I have started working on my second book. It is also a travelogue. The topic of the travelogue I will reveal
Not describe.
not right now.
Yeah.
But it is a travelogue. I am now submitting the book proposal shortly to various publishers. Hopefully the contract should be done soon. And yeah, I'm excited about it because it also covers another aspect of India which is not frequently talked about, and it's one of the most fascinating aspects about India.
Wow.
So I'm quite excited about it.
Amazing. And as you mentioned earlier, like you were working with Outlook Business at that time. So what happened with that job?
So I actually I was on the job when I went on the trip.
Ah,
So my first leg of the journey, a 4-month leg, I went to my editor's office one day. I said, "Okay, ma'am, I'm going to quit because I want to go on this crazy journey." And she was like, "Oh, why do you want to quit? Why don't you write a 6-part series for us?"
wow.
And
So everybody was hooked on that interesting idea.
yeah, so she said, "Okay, you draw your salary while you're traveling.
Ah,
and
amazing.
and you just write a 6-part series." So I said, "That sounds perfect."
It's like it was nomadic work experience as well, right?
Yeah, I was quite fortunate in all these things coming together, which finally led to this crazy idea being actually converted into a book.
Wow,
So,
that's
I was very
amazing.
lucky. Lots of people have played a huge role. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, as you mentioned, like you were writing these articles probably for Outlook Business, and then it was picked up by the publisher
Yeah,
eventually.
I mean, I believe in luck and serendipity.
Serendipity.
I believe in that. I mean, we like to think that we are in control of our lives, but I think a lot of it is not in our hands, and it's all serendipity and luck.
Wow, that's amazing. On that note, this conversation can head to a wrap now, and it was great talking to you, Rajat. And I'll put all these notes and the links in the episode show notes. I wish you good luck for your next adventure,
Thank you. It was a wonderful conversation.
and I hope your next adventure also brings out a great book like Truck Day India.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Himanshu again. Now, before you move on, here's something I want to share with you. I have one weekly newsletter which is called Saturday Pentacle. You can think of it as a weekly one-page magazine for the curious minds where you'll find 5 awesome things which I've been pondering on in the last week. It may contain popular articles, blogs, photographs, Instagram posts, books, videos, products, or thoughts. It's completely free. If you want to get it, just go to himanshusachdeva.com. That's my name, himanshusachdeva.com, and drop in your email. You'll get the very next one. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for listening.